I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's analysis of the news. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon gave a speech to the United Nations on its 63rd session. His address was on the 11th day of May, just a week ago, on the 60th anniversary of Israel's admission into the UN. This speech is the most troubling thing I believe I have ever read. Listen to what he had to say. This is the speech of Ban Ki-moon. Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, with each passing year we come closer to our past. Every year brings with it momentous anniversaries of events that shaped our world. For example, we have recently marked the 60th anniversary of the end of World War II and of the United Nations itself. These two events, inextricably linked, form the basis of what we have come to know as the modern era, the post-war era. For me, as Secretary General, looking back on where the United Nations started and where it is now has a special importance, for I am now charged with guiding the world body through unknown and uncertain territory. Terrorism, he put in quotes, has long since replaced arms control and détente as the focus of international security. Yet the term defies definition. Oh, nobody knows what a terrorist is anymore. Mr. Ban Ki-moon says one country's terrorist is another country's revolutionary hero. Must be a real head-scratcher for him. Some insist that terrorists are opposed to democracy, but we have all seen democracies behave like terrorists. He's talking about the United States, of course. In many ways, the world today does not seem to be very removed from the barbarity of World War. The invasion of Iraq has lasted longer than World War II, and more tons of bombs have been dropped on that poor country than all the bombs dropped in that great war. Of course, that's a bald-faced lie, but that's what Mr. Ban Ki-moon, head of the United Nations, said. He says, the International Declaration of Human Rights, so prized and venerated by men and women of honor everywhere, stands as an important relic of a forgotten time because conquest, cruelty, and arrogance are still with us and growing stronger. He's still talking about the United States, you know, and Israel thrown in there for good measure. For all the good the UN has accomplished since its founding, and there have been successes, the sheer magnitude of human suffering and violations of international law have occurred, and are still occurring, must also be taken into account. Few people know that Israel is the only state to be given a conditional admission under General Assembly Resolution 273. Israel was admitted on the condition that it grant all Palestinians the right to return to their homes and receive compensation for lost or damaged property. This provision is embedded in the UNGA Resolution 194. Suffice it to say, Israel has never lived up to those terms and never intended to. For 60 years, Israel has violated its terms of admission, and for 60 years, the UN has done nothing about it. Doesn't that make your blood run cold? That the Secretary General of the United Nations would make such a foolish statement as that, blaming Israel for everything? It has watched as Israel heaped misery upon misery on Palestine, as if there was a Palestine. There is not a Palestine. There has not existed a Palestine since the Romans named it Palestine after they took the Jews and sold them on the slave markets of the world. But he says, it has watched, the UN has watched as Israel heaped misery upon misery on Palestine and violated international law with impunity. After Operation Cast Lead, that's this recent war that Israel had against the Hamas, no person, no country, no democracy can look at Israel without thinking of the inhuman slaughter and destruction committed by the Axis powers in World War II. Now, he's equating Israel with Germany in World War II. Though one could have said the same about numerous past massacres, what atrocities might the world have been spared if the UN had refused to admit Israel 60 years ago? Oh, would it be wonderful? If there had been no Israel, there would be no problems today. Of course, he says, the immediate post-war world was a different time. The world had just witnessed the horrors of Hitler's racist excesses and collective Western